Hello, I'm attorney Jason Rice, attorney and founder of Dirigo Divorce, a full-service family law firm located in Springvale, Maine, serving the greater southern Maine locations. Commonly asked question that I receive is, am I going to have to pay child support? The short answer is it depends, but chances are child support is going to be ordered by the court in your family law case, as long as it involves children. So there's two types of cases where the court would enter a child support order. The first is what we would call a custody case, or a parental rights and responsibilities matter. And the second is a divorce that involves children. The courts are required to consider and to implement a child support order in cases that involve children. Child support is calculated using a child support affidavit provided by both parties. The child support affidavit looks like this. This is the affidavit the parties would have to fill out. You would put in the plaintiff's name, defendant, the location of where the courthouse is located, the docket number, the name of the person, the parent filling it out, their date of birth, and then you would include information about your employment. If you're in self-employed, if you're employed by somebody, you put your employer's name in here and address. If you're employed by somebody, you attach a copy of your recent W-2 and two recent pay stubs, or a 1099 or tax return if you're self-employed. Here you put the information on how much you make, and the court is going to look at it in the terms of gross pay. So not after deductions are taken out of your paycheck, but what's the gross pay that you're receiving? And ultimately, the court is going to want to know what your gross income is. Using this affidavit, so there's some things here, obviously going through it, you want to be as truthful as possible and attach the documents that it asked you to attach. But these are other areas that are considered income that the court can use to calculate child support. So, for example, if you're receiving unemployment benefits or workers' comp, Social Security, disability, whether it might be Social Security disability or VA disability, you put that information here. It gives you a total gross income amount, and you put in here what you expect as a gross income for the year. If there's other children or child support that you pay for kids that are not involved in the current family law case, you would put that information here. If you pay health insurance for the child or children in the current family law case, you're going to put that information here. And so what the court does is they look at it and say, okay, how much does it cost for your health insurance just to insure yourself? Then how much does it cost to insure the children in addition as an addition to your health insurance plan? You would take the difference between the two, and that's the amount you would put on here. Now, these numbers start to go in kind of in the, what you want to put down here is whether it's a weekly number or a monthly number or biweekly number. So depending on how often you get paid, you break that number down into a weekly or biweekly number. If you pay for childcare for your child or children, you attach documentation of how much that is per week. Again, per week, biweekly, monthly, whatever that might be. If your child has special or extraordinary medical expenses, so maybe a recurring therapy, counseling, medicine that they have to take, or some type of procedures, you would put that down here. And again, is it weekly, biweekly, monthly, whatever that might be. And if there's other children in your home that are not involved and you're obligated to take care of and support, you put that information right here. Here you put, an estimate of what real estate that you have and its value, cash in your bank accounts, retirement accounts, etc. Again, being as truthful as possible when you're filling this out, because you must certify it and you must swear under oath that the information is correct. And so again, the court's trying to look at what is your gross income and what's the other parent's gross income. And that number, those two numbers, are then put into this worksheet, what's called a child support worksheet. You'd put the name of the child or children, the date of birth, who's responsible for primarily taking care of the children. That means where are the children living most of the time. If they're living most of the time with you, typically you're the one that's owed child support. If they're living primarily with the other parent, they're the one that's going to be owed child support. You put down how much the health insurance cost, who's providing health insurance, who's providing daycare, who's providing the extraordinary medical expenses, again, if it applies to your case. And so again, you put your child's name, your children's name, their date of birth. The gross income is then put into this worksheet, and this is what the court uses and they have to use. Again, the court is required by statute to put a child support order in place in every family law case involving children. Um, Primary care provider, you put their gross income, and then whoever's not the primary care provider, gross income here. And then you start doing some math and adding, following the instructions here. There is actually instructions at the very bottom here too. But it will then spit out essentially a number of what the weekly child support obligation is for the non-primary care provider, so the parent who does not have the children most of the time. It will spit out a number, and again, the court is going to use this information to put in a child support order in every case that involves minor children in a family law setting. Down here are the instructions on how to use this child support worksheet. What's important to keep in mind is, as I said, the court has to put in a child support order, and it has to use those guideline numbers and information to do so. The parties are free to negotiate that on their end. They can come up with a lower number. They could agree to waive child support if they would like. But unless there's an agreement between the parties, the court has to calculate child support and put in an order. Maine does have one of the higher obligations in the country, and so that's something to keep in mind. But and as an expectation, again, I'm asked a lot of times, am I going to have to pay child support? The short answer is yes. Every state has a requirement that the parents provide for their children, and the way that the states do that is by implementing a child support order in every family law case that involves children. When the court is looking at any potential waiver of child support or a lesser amount, they're going to look at and say, okay, is this in the best interest of the children? And if the court thinks it is and it's okay with it, then the court is going to put that in as a number. But again, absent any type of order between the parties or agreement between the parties, the court has to use the child support worksheet and statutes to put in a number for child support. So again, it's important to be truthful, and this information can be updated as well. So sometimes during the course of a family law matter, parents lose their jobs or end up maybe getting a lesser amount for a job or whatever it might be. This information can be updated. And often, cases take a while, the court is going to order the parties to provide updated child support affidavits. So sometimes it could take 6 months or a year plus. Over that course of that time, the court's going to ask the parties to provide updated child support affidavits so that can have the most correct number in place. The other thing to keep in mind is if you're filing or participating in a family law case involving children, it's often better to start paying a child support amount sooner rather than later. You don't necessarily have to wait for the court to order it, but if you're paying something or if you use this information and worksheet to kind of come up with kind of a ballpark number until the court orders it, because the court can always order retroactive child support from the date of filing. So whenever you might have been served with that court paperwork, the court can go back to that period of time and start the child support obligation and start going forward. So sometimes what happens is if somebody gets served and it takes about 6 months or so before a child support order is put in place, the court can go back in time and put in a retroactive amount. So now you have a chunk of money that needs to be owed in child support that started back when a party was served. So that's something to keep in mind. So if you have any questions regarding child support and child support affidavits and worksheets or your family law case in general, feel free to reach out to Dirigo Divorce. You can call 207-200-3231 or visit website www.dirigo-divorce.com. And on the website, you can actually use a request an appointment link, and you can schedule an appointment or a consultation for 1 hour. And I'm more than happy to kind of discuss your family law case and next steps with you.